baths.
Obvious everywhere is the enormous wealth and extravagance of the villas of the well-to-do. Wall paintings and mosaics of exquisite artistry. Decorative cosmetic boxes, complete with delicate instruments fashioned from wood and ivory. Solid gold jewelry, embellished with expensive gemstones. All of these objects conjure the ghosts of their owners, recalling a once living, breathing society.
We actually have some life breathed into those ruins by the writings of Pliny the Younger, once again, who describes in tremendous detail the pleasures of living in his villas. They enjoyed their meals, and they enjoyed that in the proximity of their garden, with fountains playing and the light coming in, the breeze, dining, water, music, and all of that.
The extent of the wealth enjoyed by society is not known, but clearly only a small fraction of the people lived in plush opulence.
There is an incredible difference between the wealthy and everybody else in the Roman world. There is essentially no middle class. There are only very wealthy people and very poor people.
The privileged few often spent their time in ornate atriums, lavishly decorated with artworks. But mysteriously, much of the decor is essentially Greek in origin. Alexander the Great, the Greek warrior emperor in battle. This mosaic was found in Pompei, yet it is an exact copy of a similar work of art made in Greece. Why? Why does so much of Pompeii and Herculaneum speak so strongly of Greek influence?
The Romans were absolutely overwhelmed, I think, by the Greek world, and then the world that follows Alexander the Great, the Hellenistic world of great sophistication and culture that came to Italy. The Romans didn't fight it at all. They gave in and said, wow, if it's that good, let's make 10 copies.
Another mosaic reveals a lively scene of street musicians. A delicate work of extraordinary craftsmanship, it bears the signature of the artist who made it. Dioscurides of Samos in Greece.
The themes of the paintings are frequently adapted from Greek literature, and we can understand that it's very likely many of the painters were Greek slaves, were actual Greeks who were brought to Pompeii to do the decoration of these houses.
Perhaps the most famous of all artwork discovered here are these bronze sculptures depicting two young wrestlers. Still in mint condition, they were found in the garden of the Villa de Papiri near Herculaneum.
These are wonderful pieces of art, and they will have been done in Greece and shipped over. There was a major trade in shipping all sorts of statuary over from Greece. So that surely will be Greek. The Romans never were into statuary and painting. This came to them from the Greek world. The Romans got to the Greek world, whether it's here on the Bay of Naples or over in Greece, with armies and practicality and going in and fighting.
Most historians conclude that while the Romans were emulating and admiring the Greeks in art and literature, they themselves were innovative leaders in more practical fields. The extensive use of the arch and concrete were two of their great contributions to civilization. The Romans conquered the world and built their empire on the mighty power of the sword, but then reinforced it with massive civil engineering skills. In the 1st century before the Common Era, the wealthy lounged in luxurious indoor baths illuminated by sunlight, thanks to an anonymous Roman who had invented glass windows. villas with paned windows would spread throughout the Roman Empire and the Mediterranean, eventually leading to the design of the greenhouse. In the ensuing centuries, the popularity of the greenhouse would soar, inspiring interest in harnessing the power of the sun. This quest would reach bold new heights in 1959, when Pioneer 4, the United States' first solar-powered satellite, was launched into orbit. From the ashes of Pompeii, ghostly eyes stare at us across the centuries. Tantalizing clues can be found here, revealing intimate details of the relationship between men and women. A lady of the house holding a stylus and writing tablet, indicating that she is literate and well-educated. Though long gone, we even know the names of some of these people. Terentius Neo, wife of the town baker.
I would say that they're obviously a loving couple. They have that quality that Roman marriages are always looking for. A husband and wife who actually get along and spend their lives together. Many Romans find true love in their life, and when you read Roman tombstones, Roman inscriptions, you find that expressed over and over: to my incredibly sweet wife who lived with me without an argument for 40 years.
This captivating portrait was discovered in a mansion once owned by a woman we know only as Julia Felix. Could this be her, an independent, rich woman of property? From evidence that has transcended the centuries, we know that most women lived in a subdued and restricted lifestyle, deeply secluded within the privacy of their home. Those who belonged to an aristocratic family living in one of the lavish villas would also be responsible for running the day-to-day affairs of the house and would manage the slaves. But in spite of what we know, the true status of women in ancient Rome still remains a mystery.
Women in the Roman world were not on the same par with men. They did not have the same rights to hold office. They could not vote.
Well-born women at Pompei, the matrona of these grand houses at Pompei, wielded their power very much within the realm of the private household, at dinner parties and among the family. They certainly would in no way even want a career. It would be unheard of. When we are talking about women's liberation today, we often talk about the ability of a woman to go out and build a career. A Roman woman simply wouldn't want to do that.
But one career for women did flourish, the so-called oldest profession in the world. In the center of Pompeii stands a very conspicuous house, the town's main brothel. 6 small, darkly lit rooms greet the visitor, each one with its own stone bed. These would have been covered by fine blankets and furs. But how do we know what activity really took place in these rooms? The paintings on the walls reveal it all in graphic detail.
We mustn't over-glamorize the institution, however. The young women who were captured slaves, who worked for a pimp, no doubt were often abused and underfed and brutally treated. Yet it was an accepted part of society, and any number of Roman gentlemen from all levels of society would have felt free to use the services that were offered there.
Paintings which would be termed pornographic today were not restricted to the Roman brothel. They are found in many private homes of distinguished citizens. In the entrance hall to the house of a well-established family named Betti, the visitor is greeted by this explicit painting. Excavators also found a remarkable collection of novel wind chimes, replete with their original bells. These winged phalluses were used as decorations in the home, or suspended from columns in the garden.
It shocks us, it makes us wonder about the morality of these people. Clearly, this particular figure and many representations of the nude phallus found throughout the city were there as good luck symbols, as symbols of fertility, symbols to shed fertile children and opportunity on a household, not as objects of perversion.
We really do find ourselves in a completely different world here than the ancients did, I suppose, because many ancient cults are flagrantly orgiastic, involve sexuality, and it is used for religious expression. That really got removed from religion, at least as I understand it, largely through Christianity.
Barely discernible fertility symbols can still be found on many walls in and around Pompeii.
When, for example, the site was being excavated in the 18th, 19th century, and the excavators took hatchets to these and destroyed them because they were obscene beyond belief, it tells you a great deal more about yourself, than it does about the objects. We all know that there are phalluses in this world. Sexuality was an ordinary daily part of every Roman's life, the way it is of most of our lives, though we don't like to talk about it openly. The wealthy and everybody else in the Roman world. There is essentially no middle class. There are only very wealthy people and very poor people.
The privileged few often spent their time in ornate atriums, lavishly decorated with artworks. But mysteriously, much of the decor is essentially Greek in origin. Alexander the Great, the Greek warrior emperor.
They enjoyed their meals, and they enjoyed that in the proximity of their garden, with fountains playing and the light coming in, the breeze, dining, water, music, and all of that.
The extent of the wealth enjoyed by society is not known, but clearly only a small fraction of the people lived in plush opulence.
There is an incredible difference between
Obvious everywhere is the enormous wealth and extravagance of the villas of the well-to-do. Wall paintings and mosaics of exquisite artistry. Decorative cosmetic boxes, complete with delicate instruments fashioned from wood and ivory. Solid gold jewelry, embellished with expensive gemstones. All of these objects conjure the ghosts of their owners, recalling a once living, breathing society.
We actually have some life breathed into those ruins by the writings of Pliny the Younger, once again, who describes in tremendous detail the pleasures of living in his villas.
In battle. This mosaic was found in Pompei, yet it is an exact copy of a similar work of art made in Greece. Why? Why does so much of Pompeii and Herculaneum speak so strongly of Greek influence?
The Romans were absolutely overwhelmed, I think, by the Greek world, and then the world that follows Alexander the Great, the Hellenistic world of